what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Foot Candle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Foot Candle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson. With me is Chris Fry. We are with the Foot Candle Film Society and our annual Foot Candle Film Festival coming up in late September. More details on that to come later. Chris, how's it going today?
Going well. I'm looking forward as we record this. We are on the eve of July 4th. So
right.
It's June 30th.
The official
June 30th,
title
so,
for
yeah,
the
right.
3 eves away
right.
of July 4th is.
Right.
But yes, that's today.
So looking forward to, getting a day of celebration, maybe a day off. But before that, we have movies to discuss.
Well, you're not getting a day off from movies because
That's right.
you know what we're watching this weekend.
What?
It's a Jurassic World Rebirth.
Okay, I know we had talked about doing it, so
That's
we are
this
sticking.
weekend,
We are
not
sticking.
today.
We are sticking with reviewing that next time.
Absolutely, we are. Chris.
Okay.
Yes, because this is the thick of the summer.
It is.
We've got big movies to review, including the one we're reviewing right now today, and that is F1: the movie. Because again, I have to legally say colon whenever there's a colon in a title now, in the title of a movie. So it's just what I have to do. F1: the movie, sponsored by Apple Computer, filmed for IMAX. Yes, I can keep expanding on it. But yes, F1: the movie is what we will be reviewing today. That, of course, is the latest Brad Pitt movie directed by Joseph Kosinski. He of Top Gun Maverick fame. We'll be talking about this film here in a moment. We also have a couple of trailers we're going to show for listen to on audio podcast for new films coming out in the next several months that we're intrigued by. I've seen one of the trailers. I think Chris has seen neither trailer.
Correct.
So we're going to kind of enjoy these and see what they portend for these films coming up in the future. And Chris, do you have a recommendation for us today?
I do.
Oh, wonderful. So we'll cap out the show with a recommendation from Chris Fry of a film that we ought to try to consider checking out. So with that, Chris, why don't we just start up our engines? I don't really have anything clever to say leading into this.
Vroom,
I feel
vroom.
the need for speed. That seems appropriate for this, but not quite the exact right movie, but really, really close. All right, here we go. Let's get into our review of F1: the movie.
Some people look at Sonny Hayes. They see a guy who lives in a van, a gambling junkie who missed his shot, the best that never was. But I see possibility.
And if you don't love me now, we'll never.
My Rook is a phenomenal talent, but he's young.
Never break the chain.
You plus him, boom, I got a team.
I can still.
When was the last time you won a race? Sunday, Daytona? Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Formula One. Oh, I'm sorry. Then same as you.
Jazz. It's not really my type of music, but I'm able to realize good performances or what I think of as good music when I hear it in top form. Things Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, Branford Marsalis. Likewise, movies fixated on car racing, Ford versus Ferrari, speed, not really my jam. With F1, the movie, which is good for clarification's sake because otherwise I would have thought it was about the key on an Apple keyboard, F1. So I probably would have had almost as equal interest in a movie about the F1 keyboard as
but
this
Chris,
movie.
You know that somewhere somebody probably has a spec script
Oh,
all about the F1 key on a keyboard. and that eventually will become a movie.
And I can only
because
hope it
why
also
not?
stars Brad Pitt. So, my expectations of this film are low. We'll
Yes.
get to what I actually thought of it. You, however, I think you tend to, in general, like sports movies, be more of a fan of sports movies than I am, and car racing fits into that. And you also have a son that is interested in cars a good deal. So with that, your expectations, out of the box, had to be higher than mine. But now that you have seen the film, I'm wondering where does it fall in your spectrum of sports movies, and what'd you just think of F1 in general?
All right. So
F1 the movie. Sorry,
F1
you did
colon. You didn't
Yes.
say colon.
Yeah,
F1 colon the movie. This is where I have to do a split my personalities out,
Okay.
because I'm tempted after I watch a movie like F1 colon the movie, where my brain is at war with itself. Okay. There's the one half of my brain that, yes, I'm a member of this state's Film Critics Association. I have to critically assess films, and I have to discuss their strengths and their weaknesses, and I have to discuss what worked for me, what didn't work, and how it compares to other types of work of the similar genre, blah, 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 blah. Then there's the other half of me, my brain, that's like, screw that guy. I just want to have a good time at the movie theater
Sure.
and have fun. Okay. So that's where my brain was after watching F1 colon the movie. And it is pretty evenly split between those two brains, where my film critic brain says, there were a lot of mistakes with this film, where technically speaking, yes, it's an incredibly efficient film. But I also can very, very clearly acknowledge that, look, it's trying to fit a formula, not Formula One, but that's just the way, trying to fit a formula, and it's trying to hit the beats that it wants the audience to experience along the way. But none of those beats are really hit very effectively. None of those beats are really handled really effortlessly. And it's trying to do a lot in a movie, which also mean the movie ran a whole lot longer than it needed to. There's a lot of things I can criticize with the film. However, I had a really good time with this film.
Okay.
I did enjoy it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was, yes, did it play the beats that you exactly know it's going to play? Yeah, pretty much. Technically speaking, I mean, do I think watching F1 racing is the stuff that film was made for? I wouldn't think that. And I still don't really think after seeing this movie, but they do the best I think you could do in showing off this sport, given the nature of the sport. So look, I had a really good time. I've come to the realization Brad Pitt at this age in his career is kind of my spirit animal. It's like between Brad Pitt and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Brad Pitt and Moneyball, and now Brad Pitt and F1 the movie. I'm like, that is a standard I want to set my life to. So that kind of persona, that type of character, he is very clearly able to channel into a film like this. All that to say, I had a really good time with F1 the movie. I liked it, but I am absolutely, hands down, absolutely understanding and supporting of all the flaws that this movie has, and all the things that did not work well, and all the traps it fell into that I wish it hadn't, but it did. But I still enjoyed it and had a really good time. So that being said, Chris, over to you. What did you think of F1 colon the movie?
I am genuinely surprised that I enjoyed the movie as much as I did.
Okay.
And I'll say that I think the reason behind that, it was an adequate diversion. You can put that on the
Chris Fry
poster.
quoted, F1 colon the movie, an adequate diversion from my day.
Yep. And in large part, it has to do with the cast. Brad Pitt and Javier Bardem, they have this, like, you find out they kind of go back a little ways. They'd race together. And I would never think that chemistry would work, but it really did for me. And, Javier Bardem's a great actor and Brad Pitt's a good, but somehow, like, I don't know, I'm becoming more fond of Brad Pitt's acting. You've mentioned, I liked him in 12 Monkeys, but you mentioned, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't think he could have been better in that film. And this is a film that, like I said, I didn't really care about. I'm like, okay, he's just going to play cocky race car driver. And I mean, he would, but it was a little bit more nuanced, just enough that I was like, huh. And like those opening scenes, you're like, okay, he admits he has some flaws. He's got some, some issues. One of the most effective things they do kind of early on in the film, he agrees to come on this team. And you see the trailer, it's like, okay, young guy played by Damson Idris, who plays Joshua Pierce. He's the young guy that Sonny Hayes, Brad Pitt's character, has to come in and kind of mentor because he's too much of a loose cannon and they have to like work together. You're like, okay, yep, I've seen this trope before. From what I could tell, this wasn't based on a true story, maybe based on drivers that have done something, but they didn't say, and they usually do, take a chance and say, inspired by a true story. But and this wasn't.
Truly fictional, yeah.
So that was actually in a way refreshing. I'm like, okay, so you're not trying to make it Hollywood. You're just outright making a Hollywood movie about Formula One racing. Got it. But there's an early on scene once they decide this is the team where they have a press conference.
Oh yeah. That's my favorite scene.
They ask the young driver some stuff, and then they switch over to him because Brad Pitt has a little bit of history and a little rocky, and somebody out in the audience just starts like nailing him with all these things like, you've had a family, you're divorced, you don't talk to your kid, all this stuff. And he's like, yep. And then, and he doesn't like go, but it's just very, so he's not denying anything, right. But it's just, and I was like, okay.
Well, and it ends with him even asking the question, do you wish you'd done something different? And he's like, yep.
And
that's it.
That's it.
And it's like, okay. I love that scene so much because this is a Brad Pitt character that, yes, 90% of this character is Brad Pitt.
Right.
As we see him in most movies nowadays.
Sure.
But there's that little 10% where it's like, he's a jerk. He is a flawed human being.
Right.
He acknowledges that he's a flawed human being.
I've got issues. Yeah.
And I kind of like that openness about the character. It was it didn't go terribly deep with it. I mean, I'm not saying that this turned into like some big examination of this character or whatever. No, I mean, look, it was all on the surface, but I like the fact that the film was able to say, yeah, this guy, he's not a good guy. He's not a great guy. He's had a lot of problems.
Right.
The problem with the film for me, and where I go on the critic side and say, yeah, okay, but you give me that potential and you tell me this is a flawed person. In traditional Hollywood movie scenes, there should be some reason for him to develop as a character and for us to like him at the end. And there's really not. They hint at it. And they give us one scene of him like, now I'm going to read up on this job I have and I'm going to be a better driver. And then that's it. All of a sudden now miraculously we're supposed to like him. That's where the film takes a lot of shortcuts and just kind of says, oh, we need a scene to make Brad Pitt's character more likable to be a hero in the end.
Are you putting me in the place of defending this film?
I am a little. Look, I'll defend this film. I had a good time with it. And I think technically speaking, it's a technically marvel of a film, the way they put it together and the way they shot it and made it. I'll be the first to say story-wise, it has a lot of issues, but I was able to brush by them and still enjoy the film overall for sure.
I wish I'd never have wanted our film review podcast to be a video podcast, but me having to roll my eyes and then announce a defense of the Brad Pitt character,
I love this.
Sonny Hayes is I am rolling my eyes. Okay.
Yeah.
Agreed. They could have had more development, but something that Hayes states at one point and reiterates at the end of the film is they have kind of an interesting, it could have gone one way at the end, but instead it does go that way, but then it distances itself and kind of returns to where Mr. Hayes started out at the beginning of the film. He supposedly makes no bones about it's about the money. Mm-hmm. At the start of the film, he has just won a NASCAR race or, been part of a team that won like a NASCAR race. And he comes straight from that. And then, he ends up doing this race and people, reporters that, is about the money. And he states openly, it's not about the money. But then when asked what it is about, all he does is kind of like laugh and he won't really comment. And that being at the end, I thought it's like, okay. And it's something like maybe he's not willing to say it out loud. He kind of alludes to it. He just wants to race, and it's just about his ego is proving to himself he can still do it.
Yeah.
But he never says that. So I think there was a little bit of like, so maybe daring in a way that it doesn't bother to try to make us like him. It's like, no, he's still an ego guy. He does help people out along the way, but essentially it's kind of about him.
No, and look, and there's even something I can give the commentary of two of my sons that accompany me to the screening. One of them being the car guy.
I wish I could have talked to car guy afterwards because I had some,
car son. And that's I'll
we should refer to him as car son.
The one that's really, he's a mechanic. He's into cars.
Mm-hmm.
He said especially the first race, which was the Daytona race, which is not even an F1.
Right.
This is where we meet Sonny in the first race. He said was probably, in his opinion, one of the best filmed driving sequences, race sequences he's ever seen.
Okay.
He was impressed with the movie all the way through. Because he was kind of my sounding board afterwards. I'm like,
so
was this legit? Was this on target? Did this work? He's like, yeah, it was very almost flawless with the way it portrayed everything involved. Okay. So that was good to hear because I wanted to know that I wanted this to be as authentic as possible to make it work. And I was okay as long as the technicality was very authentic. If the characters and some of their development motivations were a little paper thin, it's fine. Because again, you've got a technically sound movie kind of that they're sitting in, and I'm okay with that side of it working.
So you're okay with the fact that Carrie Condon, who plays Kate McKinnon, just happens to be divorced.
Yeah.
Whew.
See, and there again, there's like, it hit these moments. It's like, all right, yes, we have to have a romance. Didn't have to, but they felt like they needed to.
Right.
Like, we got to have a romance, but they do nothing with it. Like, it is one scene, and then all of a sudden we're supposed to assume that everything's just great with these two, and we don't have to worry about them anymore. We don't have to think about that. This is all taken care of. And that's where the film did rankle me a little bit. It's like, okay, you can't just give me one 30-second scene and that now automatically just checks that box that we have done this in the movie. Right. Relationship, got it. We need Brad Pitt to feel guilty about something that happens in the film because, got it, check. Then let's pile on top of that another moment where we're going to feel worried for Brad Pitt's character. Check. I'm like, it was too many.
Agreed.
I really think, and I think you know what I'm talking about. There are basically two crashes.
Yes.
You only needed one.
Yes.
And even the one was cliche, but it would have worked with one.
And I think
it would have worked
in a film like this about racing car, like, there's going to be a crash. I mean, there's going to be one somewhere. And sure enough, and then the fact that there's a set, you're like,
it's like when they get to the second one, I'm like, well, what was even the point of the first one? Because we've now forgotten about the impact of that. That should have had a much bigger impact on the story, but it was swept away like within a few minutes. And then now here's another crash with a different person. Oh, now we're going to shift all the attention to that. I'm like, no, you had something right there. You had an interesting piece of drama,
right,
that could have carried the rest of the film, and you just kind of dropped it like a hot potato. And let's go do this other dramatic situation with another character that didn't need to be there. Anyway, that's the kind of stuff that I feel like they just had a checklist and they're like, here's all the things we want to accomplish in this movie. We have to do them. Even if we only give it one half of a scene to do it, we're going to do these things.
Yeah.
Check. By the end of the film, people are going to walk away saying, yep, they did everything a movie like this is supposed to do. And my argument is it didn't need to. I think there was enough there at the core to work with that it would have been a fun film as it is. It would have saved about 20 minutes off the running time. I think it would have made a really tighter film. But again, I still enjoyed what they gave me because the technicality of the film was so impressive. The vibe of the film was just enjoyable. I mean, I just had a good time watching it. I was never bored. So yes, technically and entertainment level wise, it worked, but there were definitely flaws. So yeah.
I want to return to a second for talking about the cast and how like stacked something that's just a feel good action movie, sports car driving movie was. It didn't have to have a cast this good.
True,
but it does. I really think the ensemble works. I've already mentioned Pitt and Bardem and Carrie Condon, and I mentioned Damson Idris, who plays the Joshua Pierce. But in addition to that, they had two other people who, again, they're just smaller parts, but they're really good in them. And like a lesser movie wouldn't have had these people. You have Tobias Menzies, who plays a dubious board member, good and recognizable because he was in an independent movie we reviewed or talked about.
He was in
the
Julia
Hurt My
Louise
Feelings.
Dreyfus.
You Hurt My
You
Feelings.
Hurt My Feelings. Yeah.
Right. He played the husband in that. Great in that, and like similarly recognizable because of that. Then we had Joshua's mom, who's played by Sarah Niles. And the whole time I was like, what have I seen her before? And then I was like, oh, she was in Ted Lasso. She
Yes.
played like the psychologist, the team psychologist. She's great in this too. And there again, it didn't have to be her. It didn't have to, but it's like they just, even for smaller parts, they gave these people that just deliver, kind of solidify the film. And I thought both of them were great.
I agree. I liked both of their performances. I do think they're both good actors and they both put in good roles here. But the example of the Tobias Menzies character, performance is good. Nothing against the actor. He does great. But the character himself is another one of those things. It's like, we have to have this in the film. And it's not terribly fleshed out.
To provide some...
It's not terribly fleshed out.
Okay.
It's not terribly intriguing. It wasn't necessary to the film at all. So it's just, that's another example of, you had something good. You just tried to pile too many other things in your mind that were good into it that I think made it bloated and didn't develop as well. But nothing against Tobias Menzies, because I did think he was really good.
Okay, we trim out a wreck. Yep. We trim out Tobias Menzies' part.
Yes.
Okay.
Trim out the romance.
Trim out the romance.
Just make it flirtatious, but not a romance.
Can we cut out the scene where everybody's chanting combat? Because I rolled with that. And with that specifically, this is where I wish I could have talked to Carson after the movie. That's how we're referring to him,
yes,
right?
It's Carson, not Carson.
Right.
It's Carson. That's the label.
Because two things that, me not being that familiar with car racing, I had a problem accepting it because I knew this also wasn't based on a true story because they didn't say so. Mm-hmm. I had a problem believing that it could happen this way. Sonny is a very rough and tumble driver. Okay, fine. And I have, even being not that familiar with car racing, I know there's the phrase, it ain't racing if it's rubbing. Rubbing is racing, which basically means you kind of get rough out there. Yeah. Okay. But when that's used as a strategy once, okay, maybe it flies. But then it's like that, it's used more than once. And I was like, and granted, if I could have asked Carson, hey man, is that, or would they get into trouble for that? Later in the film, it's like there is a thing where they're like, oh, we have to investigate this. And they spend all of like 30 seconds watching a video replay. And they're like, nope, you're good.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a thing where people can be? Because I just don't understand. These people are risking their lives driving around the track really, really fast. Like, I would think there would be a zero tolerance policy because it's like you can kill someone.
What I've understood is that while technically speaking,
so
all
chanting
the things
combat is like, that's not cool, man.
Well, okay. The actual technical things done on the track, and I know what you're referring to, is that it does seem like Sonny, the Brad Pitt character, spends a lot more time racing deviously and like tricking as opposed to just being a good driver.
Yes.
And that is a little bothersome at times when it feels like it's just, oh, he's doing it again. He is just playing little tricks.
Stuff
to
like
trip
in the
up
NFL,
other people.
Targeting is like a no-no when you hit a player and it's like, you can't do that.
According to my son, that's the Carson. He said, look, the stuff is all, from what he understood, is all, yes, you could do it, but you're going to get fined like nobody's business, like huge fines.
Okay.
So they did allude to there being some fines at one point for one of the moves Sonny did. But basically, Alex said there's no reason anybody would do it because the fines and the penalties you would incur would be so extraordinary.
Because that was my thing. It's like, this Formula One's not new. It's been going on forever. Yeah. So it's like, if this was a tactic, everybody would do it. And then it would be a demolition derby. And it'd be like, what do you're just watching people get killed
a little bit
left and right.
A little bit of a prestige factor where you don't want to be known as the driver or the team that's doing this kind of stuff. Okay. And the fact that you get fined out the wazoo for it.
Because then it's a bad name also on your car, right? Yeah. So Ferrari, they'd be like, oh.
So I think part of this film is the fact that this is a team at the bottom And they brought in a guy that doesn't care about prestige and
Right.
honor and all that. He
Right.
just wants to win.
He's not in it for the money.
So
you
it's
know?
that combination of, look, they may pay hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines and
Okay.
kind of skewer their image a little bit, but they don't care.
Okay.
You know?
Now, second thing,
Yeah.
which I had a look, but granted, it does help. I said that this is not based on a true story, that it is, they have to give it something. I'm like, okay, but how real is this? I have a problem thinking that in 2025, and if you say this was made in 2024, and this was taking place like present day, this is like, it
Right.
could be taken place, that there is anything that could be done to a car that hasn't already been done to a car. So they
Yeah.
come up with this little refinement to the undercarriage. It's like, oh, it's going to save 1,000th of a second, or something like that. I'm like, but then over the course of however many laps, it does save a couple of seconds. I'm like, but at this point, I
I don't know.
don't know.
I'm okay buying
I was like,
that
really?
because-
That could, I mean,
these teams are constantly innovating, constantly finding ways to improve, even that 10th of a second improvement. So I buy that. I mean,
you?
I think as technology continues to grow, these teams have more ways of testing. I mean, you look at their facilities, and again,
Sure.
I did verify
A lot of
those
money.
those are legit.
Okay.
Supposedly for the making of this film, I mean, everything you saw was shot at actual racetracks.
Okay.
And they actually custom built a bay and a space for this fictional race team.
is the company,
But it's right there next to Porsche. It's right there next
Okay,
to the other
for-
race.
yeah.
Like it's in there at the
is
same
the
place.
company, which I think is Apex GP or something
Yeah.
like that. Is that real?
No.
Okay, so that is a completely okay. Well, so then that helps that they're making these. That helps me
Yeah.
block out
It's a fictional
that they're
team.
making these little tweaks because they're fictitious. They don't exist.
Supposedly
Okay.
every other thing
Okay.
we saw, every
Okay.
other racer,
all the other teams,
every other team racer, those were real racers. And all
Okay.
the other teams were real teams. And all the
Okay.
locations were real locations. It's just this team we're following is a fictional team with fictional people.
and it made it. I'll say a positive. I'm. This is as I kind of mentioned at the top. It's probably a 3-star film. It's adequate diversion. But something that did help it, we've done jumping around the globe for Mission Impossible. We've done jumping around the globe for other spy movies and stuff. But the racing, just the different cities and like the different names, I was like, good, at least I'm not all stuck in the U.S. or I'm not just doing places that I'm overly familiar with. I'm going to Abu Dhabi and like seeing a track. And I'm like, okay, it made it more interesting than it had to be. And the one city that I recall off the bat that they go to, I remember hearing about Formula One racing in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't understand how they do that. And then I guess they block off streets and make a
They do.
track.
That's what absolutely.
And
what
to
they
see
do.
that, because I'd been to Las Vegas, a year or so ago, but to see that and be like, wow, that is nuts. That basically you are modifying an entire city. Granted, Vegas has nothing but money, so they would do that. But I'm like, that's nuts.
No, it was crazy.
So that was kind of cool to actually see that in practice. So,
So I'll tell you this. You mentioned this is a 3-star movie for you. This is where this review is really interesting because
Sure.
I've been the one a little more critical and negative.
okay.
But yet I'm coming out higher on my rating because I'm like at a 3.5.
Okay.
I wish I could give it a 4 if I just didn't have some hangups with some plot devices that were thrown in or beats they tried to hit. I probably would be at 4 stars because I really did find it to be just terribly entertaining. Like,
Sure.
It was rousing. I do love my sports movies. This worked, even though it's a very kind of non-traditional sports vehicle or sports methodology. Watching in the car races. Yeah, you did spend a lot more time having to listen to that on-the-air announcer tell you what was happening because you wouldn't be able to figure it out yourself.
Right.
And that kind of hurts a little bit. Sports movies, you never want to have to like listen to somebody to tell you what's happening. You would like to be able to follow along and appreciate it on the surface.
Sure.
But given that, it's still for the Formula One racing, I think this is about the best you could do to make this an entertaining movie with entertaining characters involved. So I did really enjoy it,
Okay.
but
Sure.
I acknowledge that there are flaws left and right. Same way I did with Top Gun Maverick. And I think we have to acknowledge this.
It's like
I
it's,
felt the same
it's a
way-
Top Gun movie in cars.
I felt the same way with Top Gun Maverick in that I was really dreading how that movie was going in the first half because of some of the plot machinations and just so overly predictable, overly hitting these certain beats that it has to hit.
Right.
But by the end of the movie, I found it to be incredibly entertaining and thrilling, and I liked it at the end. Same way with F1. Although the difference is with F1, I did find entertaining pretty much all the way through. It wasn't something that was like horrible the first half and then it built to like enjoyable. I actually enjoyed it the whole way through. And I think I had a better time watching Brad Pitt go through the machinations of this film than I did Tom Cruise in Maverick. So,
oh, absolutely.
You know,
and I would second that because these are very similar. And I remember likewise in our review of Top Gun Maverick, I think I kind of said it then as well. Wasn't looking forward to this. Had no reason to see it. Probably wouldn't have seen it if we weren't reviewing this. But you know, it wasn't that bad.
Something clicked. Something worked.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
But and it was very like kind of methodical and hitting certain points. But I agree with something very crucial that you said. If we're going to have a methodical movie and it's going to hit certain little guy points that you know it's going to hit, would I rather see Mr. Cruise do it or Mr. Pitt? Right now, I'm going to say Mr. Pitt. I appreciate
because Pitt's okay playing a character that has some different facets to him, and he's cool. You like him, you want to be like him, but you also realize, oh yeah, there's some shady stuff there, or there's something. Cliff Booth, the same way in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
right?
You love the character because he's awesome, but boy, when you really think about it, it's like, oh, but that guy's trouble. That guy's got some issues.
Yeah.
And I think this is like kind of a version of that. You could have told me if there was a way to make the time work that Cliff Booth was actually the character in F1. I'm like, yeah, I could kind of buy it. I mean, I totally could see that. So
there is, like you said, racing, the cast, the technical aspects, all that. There was something that did happen early on that I was like, really? Is that they're really trying to do that? And then they showed it to us not once, not twice, but at least 3 times. I'm like, why do you keep showing that? That looks so fake. It was a magazine cover with Javier Bardem and Brad Pitt. And it was like, and it was just like, it looks so bad. And like, I get it. They're trying to place him as, being teammates. And I'm like, okay. And they had some footage and that was fine. But something about the magazine cover looked like somebody literally took Photoshop and was like, boop, boop.
I could have done without that and even the TV footage. Okay. I just didn't think worked. And actually, I wish they had left a little bit more of the backstory unknown.
Because you don't need it. You don't need it.
And you just need to know that these two people had some sort of relationship, like partnership in the past.
Sure.
You don't need to know anything else about it.
Right.
And you don't need... I do like the fact that Pitt's character, there are some visual motifs that you see that he will lean into. I'm talking a deck of playing cards and a picture on a counter. By the end of the film, I totally expected this film was going to dig into what both of those were and all the detail behind them and all the meaning, and they didn't. And I'm like, okay, that showed some restraint that I was actually kind of happy with.
Now you gotta make me take F1 down a peg.
Okay, all right.
Agreed. However, the picture with the watch that would go in front of it,
right,
and the deck of cards itself, fine, not a lot of explanation. However, the one race where he doesn't do something that he typically does, for no other reason, apparently, he gets cranky. And therefore, like, screws. And I'm like,
no, I think he was
really.
Cranky. This happened right after the car had to be demodified.
Okay,
that was right afterwards.
Okay,
where they got in trouble or somebody reported them and it was fake, and he knew it was a setup. He knew that they didn't do anything wrong. He was mad about that.
Okay,
and I think the argument is it could have been played out better in the film. I agree, but I think the argument was that he went into that race defensive and angry. Because something he wanted and he worked to get, which was a modification of the car, got taken away from him.
Okay.
And then out of frustration, he forgets his little good luck charm, his little thing. And that
his ritual.
And when he realizes he'd forgotten that because he was already frustrated, that made him even more angry.
Okay.
And yes, it did lead to a problem in the race. So
Okay, so you're
I buy
making
it.
me respect that. I didn't quite make that. I mean, I knew he was frustrated because it was a change he wanted to bring about, but I literally thought everything was he was in the car and everything was fine until he patted his
I think
pocket.
he went.
But you're saying,
I think the
okay.
idea because they cut that
Okay.
right after the shot where he
Okay.
he throws the helmet. He's also mad and busts through his door in his office because he had just been confronted about this
Yeah.
accusation of the car, and he's angry about that. So anyway, that's the
Gotcha.
way I read it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay. Well, look, I think it was an interesting review. Still think overall, I think I'm giving a higher score to this than you are, but I'm more impressed, Chris, that you came out with as positive a view of it as you did. And despite my issues I had and some things I can easily point out and debate with anybody, I'll still walk away and say this is a fun film and I had a really good time with it. So, kudos to Apple. I've been saying Apple all along has not been making movies that I felt like were really great fits yet. And this is their really big theatrical
They won an
push.
Oscar for Coda, but you're saying
And
this
I
to
think
you
this is the first movie where I'm like, all right, Apple's a movie studio now. They made a movie. They made a movie that
so
people
Killers
like.
of the Flower Moon, Napoleon.
Well, those I still don't see as Apple's kind of drove those.
I see.
Apple was kind of the recipient of those.
Got you.
This is the first one I feel like Apple was making happen, and
Okay.
it happened now. So
Fair enough.
Anyway, that's the way I look at it. So
Okay.
F1 the movie, overall positive from both of us. Yeah, with some caveats, but overall surprisingly positive review from both of us.
And I'll say, just as a final footnote on the review, if you are the least bit interested in this movie, even though you could wait if you have Apple TV Plus and it'll be on there eventually, unless you have quite the amazing sound system and a huge screen, it is kind of cool to see in a theater. I mean, we always try to encourage people to go to theaters anyway, but yeah, this is one of those that, you can watch it at home, but in a theater.
It does really work.
Yeah.
This is the first film I've seen in the Dolby Cinema here in our local multiplex that I'm glad I chose that theater.
Okay.
Because normally I walk away very frustrated with the experience in the Dolby Cinema.
Sure.
I don't think they have the colors are always off. The projection doesn't seem to be as sharp as it needs to be. I don't feel like it fills the screen half the time. It's just a lot of issues with it.
Okay.
This one, I'm sitting here watching this, and halfway through the movie, I said to myself in my head, this is beautiful. This is a beautiful way of presenting this movie, and this looks so good, and it sounds so good. I'm like, okay, I'm happy I'm here. Don't tell anybody I said that. But yes, that's the way I felt watching this movie. It was a good presentation. Yes, go see it in a big theater for sure.
Fair enough.
All right, Chris, we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we've got 2 trailers to play through and get some quick reactions on. And then we have also Chris's recommendation for the episode. You're listening to Foot Candle Films. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Want to discover great podcasts or maybe even start one of your own? Welcome to The Mesh, Western North Carolina's podcast network built for creators and listeners alike. From local sports and business to comedy and culture, The Mesh is home to unique voices and fresh perspectives. Do you have something you want to say? The Mesh can help you bring your podcast to life with the tools, support, and platform you need to be heard. Check us out at themesh.tv, where great podcasts live and new ones are born.
Welcome back to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. We had our review of F1: the movie in the first half of the show. With generally positive review from both of us, kind of surprisingly so, at least for one of the two of us. F1, go check it out. It's a fun time at the movies and technically a very impressive film to see as well. Chris, let's turn our attention, as always, we try to movies that haven't come out yet.
Sure.
We want to talk and speculate a little bit on these movies. I told you early on, Chris, I was going to make a big news item out this. I actually decided I'm not going to. I'm just going to mention it in passing.
Okay.
Big breaking news this week. You and I have already talked about it offline, so I don't really feel like rehashing. We'll just sum up our thoughts on it. But it was announced since Amazon MGM has bought the James Bond franchise from its previous owner. And so now Amazon is in control of James Bond. we knew it was a matter of time before they would announce a director and eventually a star to play the new James Bond in the new series. So they have at least announced the director. It is Denis Villeneuve. He of Arrival, Skyfall,
the Dune films.
No, not Skyfall. I'm sorry. The Dune films. Yes,
Yeah.
Arrival. Both of the Dune films. We've got Blade Runner 2099. That's what I was thinking of. Oh gosh, what else? Enemy.
Yeah.
Prisoners.
Sure. Incendies, and then you may have hit all of them.
I think did I hit all of them? I think I did. Anyway,
yeah.
brilliant filmmaker. I personally am happy that if they're going to restart the James Bond franchise, let's bring in some really top tier talent. Director Dave Villeneuve is one of those top tiers. So I'm happy with that. You brought up a good point when you and I discussed this. That is concerning, and I want to tell me your quick thoughts on that.
So good director, fan of his work. It does give me, I've been on record as saying I'm not the biggest fan of the Bond franchise. I was getting kind of burned out, but him being a signed director, that does make me curious, would make me probably want to check out what he does with the franchise. However, the one little kind of caveat there is I do like Denis Villeneuve and his direction, but I kind of wish he wasn't getting on board with another franchise, because I like his original stories or his original works that aren't part of a franchise or a universe. He's already doing, or so I think, who knows, things change, but another Dune film.
Yes.
Dune Messiah.
Third one. Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And now he's going to be doing a Bond film. So I don't know how these things will stagger out. Because like you say, they still have to have a star assigned to the Bond franchise to start filming. That would probably help. So I just hope he's still able to slot some, original or less IP driven things into his resume. So
I don't know. I hear you, and I agree. In a perfect world, Denis is able to go out and do his own original stuff after finishing this Dune trilogy. But on the flip side, if I'm the guys running James Bond and I'm like, I want a really rock solid director, someone that just, if I can't get Christopher Nolan, which there had been rumors about that,
which again would have made me excited, but also given the same reservation.
Same question, same issue. If I can't have a Nolan, who I think would be perfect for a James Bond director, let's see. If they're not going to give Tarantino a chance to just try something different.
That's what I want. So supposedly he's on record, that he's only making a certain number of films. Yeah. His next film, which I think is called The Movie Critic, last I saw, it would be his last film. That's when I would want Tarantino to be like, no, and then I tell you what, buddy, why don't you make one more and it can be a James Bond film? He'd be like, maybe he'd be like, okay. So then I would be really jazzed because he was going to quit anyway. So,
right. But given those situations didn't pan out or don't seem to be the case,
right?
I think they got the next best option here, and I think if nothing else, it's going to be a really good looking James Bond film. I think
so. Quickly too, I wish I would have kept the news item because you and I talked about the director, and then I saw this flash across. And in addition to mentioning Denis Villeneuve, but supposedly there were 3 actors that are kind of on the top of the list. And I'm going to refer to him because I forget his name. You'll know his name. Baby girl guy.
That's a Harris Dickinson.
Yep,
Dickinson.
So, baby girl guy, Tom Holland, Spider-Man guy. And then I forget who the third one is. Do you remember who the third one is? All white dudes, which, I know a lot of people were kind of angling for somebody like Idris Elba to be it, but all white dudes, Tom Holland, Harris Dickinson, and then there was a third one.
I saw the same article, and I just can't place that third one. I know you're talking about, but I do not recall.
And honestly, I like Tom Holland a lot, but I don't.
He is not right for
I don't see him doing it.
No.
So
I agree. I hope it's not Tom Holland. And again, Tom Holland's a great Peter Parker Spider-Man. He is a great kind of young adventure type of thing. But I mean, James Bond has got there's just a whole different vibe to it. Is it too big of a role to have? Oh, Jacob Elordi.
Oh yeah.
Which I think would be okay.
Yeah. To me, he was the guy that was in Saltburn.
Yeah.
And then he was also in Priscilla, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He was.
He is small enough kind of like Baby Girl
like
guy.
name wise.
Right.
Yeah.
That I think it wouldn't be a problem for me to like switch
Yeah.
over. Whereas Tom Holland, I like him, but
No,
yeah.
I would be fine with Harris Dickinson if that's the direction, or Jacob Elordi.
Okay.
Either of those two. Henry Golding was someone that I thought would be really cool.
Remind me, the name sounds familiar, and I know who
I think
he is.
he's the guy. Wasn't he the May December?
Oh.
I think that was him.
Huh. But if not, the guy in the lead male in May December that had the relationship with Julianne Moore.
I think that was Henry Golding.
I think you're right. That would be a fascinating and there again, benefits from not being in every film known to man or not being in the MCU.
Yeah.
That would be fascinating.
I think, I hope I'm remembering correctly. No, I'm sorry. That was Charles Melton. That was
Okay,
in
Charles Melton.
May,
Okay.
December. But he would be good too.
He would be.
So
We're just listen to us. We're casting the film for you, Amazon.
Henry Golding looks similar. He's a very
Okay.
similar looking actor. That's Henry Golding. I'm showing you a picture of there.
Yeah, he's in Nine Perfect Strangers, the second season.
Okay,
I believe.
there you
Okay.
So I really
Wow.
kind of liked him.
yeah.
And then there's one other actor, and I'm just trying to remember the name. He played, I know he was in Game of Thrones, but I never saw Game of Thrones, so I couldn't tell you.
What?
But he played in the Elton John movie, Rocket Man. He played like the manager. What is his name?
See, you're because all I can remember is Egerton. or
He's
whatever.
actually my favorite choice.
Taron Egerton, who played Elton John.
Yeah,
but
no,
you're talking
not Egerton.
Okay.
But he played his manager and love interest at one point for a while.
Oh wow!
But I know he was in Richard Madden. Richard Madden was this guy. Wasn't he Game of Thrones?
Oh, he looks like somebody who would be in Game of Thrones. I think so. I don't think he played a huge role.
He was Rob Stark
oh.
in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
So
that
he was
to
in
me,
it.
that's James Bond. Okay, I've seen him in enough things.
Okay.
I think he's a good actor. I want him as
So
James
Tom
Bond.
Holland. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, it's not happening.
I do like you a lot, but I think somebody. Yes. Charles Melton, Henry Golding. Yeah. Any of these guys. Yeah.
All right. I said I wasn't going to make a big news out of this, but we did end up spending a lot of time on it. All right. So that's the deal. Denis Villeneuve is directing the next James Bond movie. We will see how it turns out. Of course, we'll talk about this again whenever they announce the actual actor that's going to play him. All right, Chris. I'm checking our clock here. I want to keep everybody's time focused because I'm very big on time. I want to make sure we're not overstaying our welcome in anybody's earphones going forward. So let's just hit these two trailers we've got.
Fair enough.
First up is a trailer called Roofman. This is a film that I saw the trailer for over the weekend.
Okay.
It is starring Mr. Channing Tatum.
I've heard of him.
And what's probably most intriguing for me that I found out in watching the trailer, did not realize until I saw the trailer, is based on a true story, and said true story actually took place less than an hour away from where we are standing right now in Charlotte, North Carolina.
And my understanding is they did filming in Charlotte as
Awesome.
well. So yeah.
So the story here is that a former U.S. Army Reserve officer escapes from prison after robbing McDonald's restaurants and hides out in a toy store before being recaptured. Okay, so that is the deal. The director is Derek Cianfrance.
Oh wow. That's Blue Valentine.
Oh, really? Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and Something in the Pines, the Gosling movie. Actually, Blue Valentine's Gosling too. I can't remember something.
But this is
Pines.
not Gosling.
Right. But
Okay,
the director, Derek
Oh, yeah.
Cianfrance.
A place beyond the pines or something.
I think that might be it.
Okay. Well, good. Well,
Yeah.
then that's interesting.
Yeah.
I have seen the trailer.
Okay.
Looks interesting. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. So let's check out the trailer for Roofman. Here we go.
We all like going back in time and imagining how things could have gone differently. Like, what if I made different choices? Would I have ended up here?
It's been 6 months and still no leads on the whereabouts of the escaped convict known as the Roofman.
I was never very good at life. Good morning, team. No. Don't be scared. Kind of like I was not good at hurting people. Dwayne, get your coat.
I don't have one.
Are you serious? Here. But I was good at seeing things. Details. Systems and routines.
hunt tonight for an escaped prisoner.
Find a safe place to hide for a few months.
He's a very smart individual, super intelligent.
All right. So that is the trailer for Roofman. Chris, I heard some chuckles. I heard some sounds of delight. Sounded like you were looking forward to it now.
I am. Just knowing who's behind the camera, Derek Cianfrance, I'm encouraged. Hope the trailer hasn't shown everything good thing in the movie. Looks like it's a good cast. I do hope. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I will say, I am being not from that familiar. I think I vaguely remember the story in the news.
I don't remember it at
vaguely,
all.
Very vaguely. However, I hope they do point out whatever the gentleman did to get in prison beforehand and doesn't just gloss over that, because that's important if it is based on a true story, not to excuse whatever got him in prison in the first place.
Sure.
So, but yeah, and Lakeith Stanfield, hadn't seen him in a little bit. He's been in a lot of stuff. Glad to see he may not be a big role, but glad to see he's in the film.
Well, yeah, I think we've also seen a resurgence of what's actress's name in the film, Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah.
After Civil War.
Yeah.
It's good to see her. You know, I like seeing her in movies now, and I think she seems to be kind of a fun part to play.
Right.
So I'm excited. I saw the trailer this weekend before F1. I'm like, yep, count me in. Done and done, ready. So I hope it's good, but the trailer does look promising.
It does look promising.
Yes.
Coming to
It's like a nice blend of some comedy, but seems to be some serious notes under the surface too, which could be good. So, all right. So that is Roofman. Roofman is coming out October 10th.
And it's to theaters too,
Not
a Netflix joint or something.
That is the plan.
Okay.
That's what it says. Right here, we're going to hold them to it. So we'll see.
Okay.
All right. The second trailer I want to bring up, I know nothing about this movie other than the actor and the two directors.
Awesome.
The movie's name is Project Hail Mary. Is that ringing any bell for you?
I think it may be on my list of anticipated films, but I think I had it coming out in 2026. So if it's coming out in 2025, then maybe not. Maybe I think.
Oh, you're right. Movie. It is coming out in 2026. So
okay,
so we're a little ways out on this.
I think it's a sci-fi film, and it's about a guy kind of put in a bad situation that has to figure out how to survive.
Yeah, I tell you, they've released a poster and the trailer, and the poster kind of likes to play up the fact that it's by somebody that was involved with the film The Martian, trying to kind of hit that mark of the whole Matt Damon, The Martian.
Which may be written by, because I don't remember Lord and Miller being involved in
they
Martian
weren't
at all. Ridley Scott. So,
Lord and Miller are the directors of this film.
Right.
And I'm trying to just pull up more information on this film. Unfortunately, I don't have it. Hold on. Got it here somewhere. Project Hail Mary. Ryan Gosling is the star.
Okay.
And he plays a very reluctant astronaut. So again, we have an astronaut. Yep, it's the writer of The Martian.
Okay.
So this movie is by the writer who wrote The Martian, but the directors are the team behind Across the Spider-Verse. They also did the 21 Jump Streets redos.
Right.
The Lego Movie.
Yes.
It is Phil Lord and Christopher Miller.
Right.
So the writer, Andy Weir, was the writer of The Martian. This movie is set to be March 2026, but they've already come out with a full trailer. And it is from those directors already mentioned. Ryan Gosling is a 6th grade science teacher sent to space to save the Earth. All right, that's all I'm going to say about it. What do you say we watch the trailer and see if this has got anything going on for it or not?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. If my tablet wants to cooperate, it's being very finicky today.
It also wants the July 4th holiday. I think is the problem.
I know what the problem is with my tablet. I don't install beta software on any of my my functional devices.
Let this be a lesson, kids.
No, my phone and my Mac, I don't put beta software on, like beta operating systems, because I don't trust it. My tablet, though, I'm like, whatever. I'll try it out, because this is just my tablet. All I do is take notes and watch movies on it. So
got you.
Here we go. This is the trailer for Project Hail Mary.
Please state your name.
Ryland Grace. He spoke up from a coma.
I'm several light years from my apartment. And I'm not an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut. I'm not an astronaut.
If you don't go, you die. With the rest of us.
The sun is dying.
You are the only scientist who might know what this says.
I'm just a teacher at Grover Cleveland Middle.
You have a doctorate in molecular biology. I need you to come with us. This is Project Hail Mary. The sun is not the only star dying. Every star was infected by its neighbor except one.
Why?
We don't know. Which is why we built a ship to go there and find out.
Okay, so that was the trailer for Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling, directed by Lord and Miller, coming out in March. Chris, any initial takeaways?
I'm curious. Andy Weir, I read The Martian, the book, after I'd actually seen the film. And correct that. I think I did it traditional way. Read the book first, then saw the film. Like both a lot.
Okay.
So that makes this film have a lot to live up to. I trust Gosling. I like him a lot. I'm one of the very few people that will defend The Fall Guy. I think everybody else pretty much hated it.
I've watched The Fall Guy a second time.
Okay.
It was better. Better than I gave it credit for. It was better. It was better than I thought. So yeah.
I think with this film, what I'm a little leery of, the balance of serious versus comedic.
Yeah.
And there was a reveal in the trailer that I wish hadn't been in there.
I know. Well, and I'm curious about that reveal too.
Right.
Because it could threaten to change the tone of the film.
And since listeners, you listened to said trailer,
yeah,
I'll go ahead and say, because they revealed
right, they heard it, yeah.
So,
the alien.
Yeah, the alien. I wish that I had.
Well, I wish I had known that. And then B, I'm also curious what that does to the tone of the film, because it just, it's basically The Martian for a good part of it, a different plot. So not, but the idea is the same. It's a person that's kind of somewhat of an unlikely candidate to do something. There's going to be a lot of time of them on their own up in space, but they're communicating with people back on the ground. It's like, yeah, it's very much, you got a charismatic lead actor like Matt Damon was. You got now Ryan Gosling, a little fish out of water in some degrees, but they're super smart, so they know how to figure things out. I love that whole idea, and I'm fine with this being The Martian 2 for all intents and purposes. When it threw the alien mention in there, I'm like, okay. They got to make this work. Like there's some work to do now to make that work for me in this film, because it did kind of was a little bit of a left turn there. I did like seeing
Sandra Hüller.
Sandra Hüller, yes. I knew it was only a matter of time before we would see her in some big American blockbuster playing a supporting role, somebody of a very serious nature. Yes,
here you go.
Here you go. And it's delivered just like I thought it would, but she's really a fascinating actress, so I'm happy to see her in that role.
And she previously, the thing that got her life was Anatomy of a Fall.
Right.
So that, yeah.
Anatomy of a Fall, and also
Zone of Interest.
Zone of Interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I knew it was a matter of time.
Sure.
Like, we're going to see her in a big American blockbuster film sometime soon. And
I'm just glad it wasn't a remake of Anatomy of a Fall. So
right.
I'm glad they let that stand on its own. So yeah, we knew we were going to see her.
So this film, not only do I get vibes of The Martian Part 2, but also an Armageddon thing going on.
Right.
Which, it's okay. I will actually defend Armageddon to some degree, although that is a hot topic to jump into. I had a fun time with Armageddon many, many years ago when it came out. I love the whole putting together a team and unlikely ragtag team to go save the world. I got that vibe from this trailer as well. I'm like, all right, look, I'm on board, but Lord and Miller, they got to make this work, and I hope it does. So it's going to be down to them. Can they balance, like you said, the drama with some comedy, with some lighter moments, given the heavy stakes of the film and the fact that they're throwing in an alien? All right, make it work, guys. Just show me you can make this work. So, okay, Chris, that is our two trailers that we're curious about in both sides, Project Hail Mary, and then we did see the trailer for The Roofman as well. Both look promising. Both look like they could be really good forms of entertainment, but we'll have to wait and see. Right. Time will tell for sure.
Sure.
with that, Chris, we're going to go right into the final phase of our show, which is your recommendation. Chris likes to watch movies, as we all do, but Chris likes to bring our attention to films that either he catches back up with, revisits, or just remembers sometimes that he'd like to recommend for us. So, Chris, what do you have to recommend for us this episode?
So I'm going to recommend a film that came out in 2024. I believe it was a French language film. I mean, I know it was in French. Yes. So France is where it first came about, which makes sense because all the actors in it, I believe, are French. It is, I believe, a retelling because this is an old story that I feel like I had seen a previous version of it. And this is why I probably didn't catch up with it until now. The Count of Monte Cristo. That's a 2024 version that I mentioned was a French film. Caught up with it on Hulu, so got to see it for free. But it tells the story of Edmond Dantes. He becomes a target of a sinister plot and is arrested on his wedding day and thrown into jail for a crime he didn't commit. And it's an island prison, so he's really isolated. He thinks he's never going to get out. 14 years later, he manages to escape. He's now rich beyond his wildest dreams, and he assumes the identity of the Count of Monte Cristo and exacts revenge on the three men that put him there. I knew all that going in because, like I said, I think I've seen another film version of this. I've never read the story, but I knew what was going to happen. And despite the 3 hour over or close to 3 hour runtime, I was still engaged in the film, which is pretty impressive because it's a story I already know. I already know how it's going to end. And it was really well done. And I remember last year, a lot of film critics from North Carolina Film Critics Association, they were throwing this out as one, it was like, it's really well reviewed, 4 stars all over the place out of 5, sometimes 5 stars. And I was like, got to check it out, but just never got to it. I had it on my watch list. I finally caught up with it. And I think you should too. Count of Monte Cristo, and it's on Hoopla and probably rentable other places, but you could see it for free if you're a part of that library service. So
I feel like there's been so many versions of that story.
Right.
Okay.
And maybe that's why there hasn't been a American English, because maybe the last one, because I know they've been American remakes of like Three Musketeers and stuff like that. So maybe they just feel like nobody's going to buy that. But the French said, you know what? We're going to make a version. And they did. Yeah. And it was really good.
All right.
So,
good. Well, I will be curious to check that out at some point. The Count of Monte Cristo, you said, was on Hoopla?
Yes. And it may be also rentable.
Rentable on paid services. But as far as if you have a library membership and they support Hoopla as their digital platform, that's where you can see Chris's recommendation of The Count of Monte Cristo.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Christopher. With that, we are done with the show. But Chris, we always like to leave with a little note for people to know how they can reach out to us or contact us or ask questions about anything we talked about. How can they do that?
You can send an email to info@footcandle.org. Leave us a voicemail via the contact page on the mesh.tv website. That's also where you can catch up with past episodes of our show. You can follow us on Facebook at Foot Candle Film Society, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter. We're Foot Candle Film. Al and I are also on Letterboxd, where we attempt to track what we're seeing and leave quick takes. Do us a favor, if you're a fan of the show, write a review, share with friends on whatever service you receive your favorite podcast on, because it'll help us reach new listeners, and we would always appreciate that. The 2025 Foot Candle Film Festival is going to be September 19th through the 28th. It's going to be our 11th annual festival. We would love to see you here if you're going to be in Western North Carolina. So check it out. We'll have more information about the festival, like lineup, coming soon. So
yes, very soon, like within weeks.
Yeah.
So should be a good time. We're looking forward to it. And that wraps us up for today. That is the end of Foot Candle Films. Thanks everybody for listening. We will be back next week with another movie review about dinosaurs. Aren't you excited, Chris? Come on. F1 should have restored your faith that blockbusters can be fun and entertaining. So let's go.
You're right. Blockbusters can be fun.
Yeah.
So my expectations could be lower, which could be a good thing.
No, going with low expectations, Chris. I think that's good. Jurassic World. It's a rebirth. Come on, man. You go rebirth of your perceptions of Jurassic World movies. It's a rebirth of your love of big budget blockbusters franchise movies now. Anyway,
sure.
Whatever. We'll see. It's probably going to suck, but we'll find out. We'll see. All right. We'll see everybody next week. Take care.
See you in the ticket line.
Watch
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.